So, this is all about being heard in the right place, the right time. You can have all the skills, develop everything that you need to be successful in business. But if you cannot have your ideas heard when there's competing ideas, when you're in the big meetings, when it's the time to have those ideas elevated and considered and taken seriously, then all of the other training and things that we talk about are going to go by the wayside. So today we're going to talk about self-image. We're going to talk about how to elevate your voice in a way that still allows you to be the nice person that you are, but to win. That's today on the Daily Dance.
Welcome to the Daily Dance with your host, Brad Richardson.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Dance. It is Wednesday, June the 3rd. Is it the 3rd? Yes, it's the 3rd, all day long. So glad to have you with us and to be joining us again. Going back to more foundational basics today on the subject for the show, and a lot of good stuff to talk about. It's not going to be as much nuts and bolts as it is motivational today, because so many things start with motivation, and having enough motivation and the right motivation for you that you can step into new habits and develop new habits with enough motivation. And motivation, again, that's customized for you and works for your personality and your situation. You will find the mechanics. You will find the steps that you need to do with sufficient motivation. So that's what we're going to look at today. And hopefully you'll leave encouraged and ready to take on whatever challenges you're facing right now in your world. So this is the Daily Dance. What we do every time we have a show is to do our daily dance, and that is following this rule. The rule is that really before you start the day, you need to be doing your own daily dance, because before you start the day, before you leave the house, you're supposed to do a little dance. Just to the music in your own head is fine, and encourage yourself as you go out into the world, that you go with your head held high and ready to face the day. And so it's a self-encouragement. It's a little self-humility, because if you feel a little bit silly doing it, so much the better. The subjects that we deal with very seriously and find excellent solutions. So, having said that, get ready, gather your workmates, and let's do our daily dance. No, not the intro, the daily dance. Here we go. Alrighty. So, always a few glitches here and there. It's almost always me and not the equipment, and that's fine, because the point is to get these things done and get the messages out there. So thanks for bearing with. And today, just back to, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? That phrase came up recently. Comes up in my mind, honestly, when I see so much going on in the world in so many different situations. I'm sure it happens to you too. And you want to say to some people, who do you think you are? To be thinking that you can take this or that place in my life, or to say this or to do that. And it's a fair question to ask, but a much more productive question to ask for us is, who do we think we are? Who do we think we are? And that's a very important question to answer, because if we can't settle that in a good and healthy way, then the mindset that we can fall into a mindset that undermines us when we end up in competitive situations where different ideas, different solutions are being tossed about, and maybe we're having to debate and compete for approval, for attention of our ideas. Um, and we need to be willing. You have to be willing to step up and step in and compete. And that's what I want to talk about because who do you think you are? If you think somehow there's this hierarchy of this person's idea is worth hearing and mine is not, as a standard basis. Now, I'm not talking about, right, there are times where there are specialists in areas that they're going to have the floor, they're going to take the day. But it still doesn't mean, even in those instances, that your opinion can't be heard, that your ideas can't be vetted. I'm not saying that you step forward with the idea that, oh, I'm always right and people must listen to me, that it's owed me. It's not that. It's you're coming with a humility of realizing that you do need to compete to get someone's attention, to get someone's ear, to make them sympathetic to your view and what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to tell everybody. But on that basis, you have just as much reason, just as much value, just as much right to be in any discussion, in any room, right? So let's let's revisit that a little bit more, sit on that a little bit more, because I realize as I'm saying that yeah, there's you can't impose yourself into situations where you legitimately don't belong. You haven't been given that space in your organization. It would be inappropriate for you to barge in. Okay, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about rooms that you are in. These are meetings and rooms that you've been invited into. You're there. And my view is that if you are there, if you're in that meeting, if you're representing, then you belong. Period. You belong. The problem is that we end up having imposter syndrome, especially you get that promotion that you wanted to get. You get assigned to a team that elevates what you've been doing, and it's an opportunity you've been waiting for, and you finally get it, and you step into that room. Quite often what hits us is the good old fashioned imposter syndrome, right? You step into that room, you feel like you don't belong. And you may not even realize that feeling was lurking until you get in that meeting. Because usually these are things that you've been striving for, you've been trying to attain to, and you finally get there. And now everybody else seems to be more qualified than you, right? It's just that feeling of feeling maybe somewhat exposed. Maybe you feel underprepared. Maybe you are. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But we need to understand that if you are in that meeting, if you're in that room, then you belong there. You belong there. Now, there are some things that you can do once you realize that, okay, I belong here. I'm in these meetings. And now there are ways, and there are ways to prepare, things you can do ahead of time then to make sure that even though now you're realizing, yes, I belong here, but now I have enough confidence in my own ability, my own perspective to be able to raise my voice confidently and competently and put forward things that I think are important for us to consider. So the first one that we can do, or the first item on that is do the work. And we're going to think about things that we can do to make sure that we're confident enough to put ideas forward. You just have to do the work. You have to do your homework, right? You have to walk in. When we walk into a situation and we know we've prepared, we know we've put in the hours, we know we've put in the time, that in and of itself gives us a kind of confidence, right? When we step in then, because we know we're not unprepared. We know our subject We know the situation. We've looked at it. We've taken it seriously. We've done our due diligence. And again, that doesn't guarantee that your perspective is going to be the right one, but it does give you that confidence, that clear conscience, I would say, from knowing that you've done the work you're supposed to do. You've come prepared, right? And you're ready to take on whatever subjects come on in that meeting. And so good for you. And then you're ready to do that. And that can help combat that imposter syndrome quite a bit. It's not going to remove it usually, but it can help combat it. And you can look back on all the time you've put in your career and your skill, or even preparing for a specific meeting, and know that you've done your due diligence, and it can make you much more confident in your presentation, which is going to help you to be heard. So do that work. Do the work. Honor your craft. Honor your position. Honor your employer by doing the work. Do your homework, but then come and elevate your voice. And the reason that this matters too, and this is, I'm backing up a bit, but it is because if you don't, someone else will. And then we can't sit back and look at bad decisions that get made and complain about them and point them out and talk about things in the business culture if we're not doing our part to make our part of it better. If we're not raising our voice, and if we're not doing it intelligently, and if we're not being forceful enough, frankly. Now, being forceful, you can be kind and be forceful, okay? You can be nice and be forceful. You can be nice and raise your voice to be heard. And honestly, if you have the best idea, the kindest thing that you can do for those that you're working with is to make sure that that idea is heard. The best, the way that you're being the best employee is making sure that the best idea wins. And if you happen to be the one who has the best idea, it can happen. It could be you. So you need to be sure that those that are making the decisions hear it. That means you have to learn how to present that. This can be, honing your vocabulary, learning to present well, learning to speak well, record yourself, right? And see how do my presentations come across. If you continually find that people don't seem to want to listen to what you're presenting, maybe you need to take a step back because maybe you're not doing an adequate job of understanding your audience and finding a way to present your proposals in a way that it answers the concerns that they have, that it meets the needs that they have. And I speak from failure there. It's so important to be able to sit in someone else's seat, to stand in their shoes, understand the challenges they face in their position and how what you're proposing is going to be a help to them, right? Not to you, to them and to the company at large. So this is all work that you can do to continue to refine the way that you approach and attack the challenges of getting your ideas, getting your proposals pushed forward. And the assumption I'm making here is that you are in good faith, trying to find good ideas that will help the business succeed. Okay. It's not just about you. It's not just about you being heard because it's your idea. It's no, you've done some research, you've found some things out, you're good at your job, and you have some insight that's going to help the business, and it's important that it be heard. So these are things that you can do though, but it does involve not just getting upset when people don't hear you, but asking, what can you change? What can you adjust, right? We want to focus on what we can control. Other people, to a large extent, are out of our control. So what can we control? How can we win people to our perspective and to the things that we want done? And a lot of that does involve being well-spoken, well-presented, being kind, being nice, but it also does involve being willing to argue, learn to fight fair, but being willing to argue for your point and being able to argue in a way that does not make it personal, but helps you carry the day and helps you debate the questions at hand and to put your argument in the best light. And these are all things that can be practiced and learned. And to me, the biggest part of that is learning your audience and finding out how can I present this in a way that I'm speaking their language and that I'm meeting their needs and that this will matter to them. All right, I'm reaching over there. I'm not just asking them to come over here. I'm reaching over there and going, I am going to spoon feed this if I have to in a way to make sure that my point is being understood. Because you don't want to lose an argument just because people misunderstood. They didn't see the full value because it wasn't presented in a way that they were able to see the full value. You don't want to lose in that. You want to make sure that all your argument, all your facts are put out there. And then if it doesn't go your way, fine. But you know you've gotten a full hearing and you did present everything in a way, best way possible that leadership and other department heads could hear, could and really understand the value that you are proposing. All right. This is something that'll be ongoing throughout your career. Huge, huge thing that we have to constantly work on. And the better we get at this, the more successful we will be and the more successful our companies will be as well. So do the work. And then be strategic. Be strategic. What do I mean by that? I don't know. What do I mean by that? I think I mean, really, it goes back. I guess I was already getting onto that point. You want to think hard about the subject you're presenting and the people you're presenting it to, and make sure you're using the time that you have in any meeting to be targeted, to be concise, to not just throw everything out there, that all the knowledge that you have. I could relate this to the problem we can have quite often with building dashboards, different things like that, different presentations. We all, in our area of expertise, can get lost in the weeds of how I came to this conclusion, the work that went into it, the nuts and bolts of it. And some of that may be necessary, but that is not always the case. Usually you want to be able to distill what you're talking about down to just the things that matter in the time and place that you're talking and to whom you're talking to, so that they don't have to weed through a bunch of noise. You want to give them signal. You want to give them signal. And again, this is hard. This is not easy. This is something you have to practice, and you'll fail at, and you'll fail at, and you'll fail at. And every time you fail, if you understand this as a skill to be learned, then you will learn every time. But you have to approach it that way and not just be upset if others didn't hear you. You know, I remember a story of a preacher, well, a seminary student actually, who was convinced that he was called to preach, but he was just horrible. And after a long time, his professor finally had to pull him aside and say, you may want to consider doing something else. And the young man was adamant and said, no, I know that I'm called to preach. And the professor just looked at him and said, son, you may be called and have the gift of preaching, but no one has the gift of listening to you. Okay, so that's a harsh critique, but it can be true because, and I saw this, you see this in music too, something you have to realize as a musician or an artist. When you're putting things out there, you can love your music and these songs mean so much to you. But at the end of the day, if no one's drawn to listen to it, then at least as far as a career goes, then it doesn't really matter how much you love it if you're not connecting with your audience, right? And it's the same way with these types of things. You have to and be able to give people signal and not noise. The higher up the chain, the more important it is. Famously, Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, very successful people, uh, a lot that's a lot attribute their success to the fact that they really don't put up with a lot of noise. They need signal. Um, they if your conversation is not moving things forward, if the meeting isn't moving things forward, that they'll walk out, they walk away, they tune out. They don't have time for that when you're functioning at a very high level. So train yourself to give the people you're talking to signal instead of noise. Signal instead of noise. And I'm very self-conscious when I'm talking about that here, because on a podcast like this, I actually often have the luxury of, on my own podcast, to have a lot of noise as I thrash about, because I'm discovering the signal with you as we talk. But if I was going to present a lot of these things that we do on these shows, if I was going to turn it into some kind of official talk, what would I want to do? I'd want to go back through my subject, and I'd want to distill it down and make sure no words are wasted in the presentation, right? That's a better presentation. That's one that we stay engaged with more. So that's what we're talking about and to do that, again, you have to step aside, kind of outside of yourself, and be able to look at things from the perspective of those that you're trying to present to, and be able to discern what matters most to them about the subject that you're presenting. There. That's what it is. And that's being strategic. You're just trying to find those strategic areas. Okay, this person, I know that this part of the proposal would benefit them, and I know this matters to them a lot. And so I'm going to give them those one or two pieces of information that pertains to that the most, that shows them how this is going to bring so much value to that part of the business that really concerns them, and you'll hook them. They'll be hooked. They'll want to listen. Again, the whole argument may not carry, but at least now they'll be engaged because you're speaking their language and you're talking to things that are important to them. You're addressing pain points that they deal with all the time, or you're talking about certain milestones that they need to hit and how this will help that. You have to frame it all in that way. You have to have a very much a servant mindset. And the added bonus with that is that if you do that, you can find things beforehand that maybe your idea wasn't the best. You may talk yourself out of it when you dig in and you start having to see things from everyone else's viewpoint, and you realize that needs to benefit this department, that department, this exec. When you do that and you start to run through it, you may realize that, oh, I really like my idea. It works well for my department, but you know what? It doesn't really bring any benefit to them, or it doesn't really bring enough benefit to the business as a whole. Right? And then you can go ahead and adjust. You may need to modify it. You may need to scrap it, but that's so much the better. So much the better that you can get to a point where you're starting to really think and see things like your leadership team, like your managers, like the rest of the business, the other people that you're trying to serve and help, or your customers. Right? If you're in sales or you're customer facing, you're responsible for that part of it. You've got to be able to know before your customers know. You need to know what they're going to want to hear, what's going to benefit them. Not just trying to sell them on your idea. You need to see it from their perspective to find the right customers and be able to sell them well. So much of this is just getting out of our own skin and being able to understand things from another's perspective. And that is an invaluable skill in life. If you're married, very valuable. Raising kids, same thing. Any type of family life, that's going to be valuable. So be strategic. Don't be sloppy. Be strategic. And that. All that whole process, I think, kind of sums it up. So let's try to set aside the imposter syndrome and realize that if you're in a meeting, you find yourself in a meeting, you find yourself giving a presentation, you belong. There's a reason that you're there. You belong just as much as anybody else there then. Do the work, do your homework so that you can step into these opportunities confidently, and then be strategic. Narrow in on the things that are important to the people that you're speaking with. Okay. And all of this goes back to, I want to come back to the initial thought though, of who do you think you are? Do you think you belong? Do you think that you should be the one giving these ideas, giving these presentations? Do you think you have something to add and something to give that is valuable enough that people should listen to you? You do. I guarantee you do. Now, maybe you're in the wrong position. Maybe you're with the wrong company. Maybe it's a bad fit. Recognize that. But you do have something valuable to give. Everyone I've met does. You have gifts, you have talents, you have abilities. So who do you think you are? You are valuable. You are skilled. You are able to do far more than you realize. Most humans are. But it does mean you're going to have to overcome your imposter syndrome. You're going to need to do the work, and you're going to want to be strategic as you approach this. But do not back down simply because you feel like somehow you don't belong where you are. You were hired to do a job. You've ended up on committees or meetings or in meetings. That's you, then you belong there. Step in confidently, take your full swing and give it your best shot, and you'll be glad you did, and your confidence will then grow. You've just got to do it once. If you're someone who's more introverted, you're more shy, you really don't want the attention, please, if you are a thinker and you have good ideas, if you are genuinely wanting to do your job well, then please raise your voice. Please learn to elevate your voice and be heard, because our society, your business, your community needs to hear from you, right? We can't have the good ideas going by the wayside. We can't have the good people being silent, because if good people stay silent, who's going to win the day? And then we can end up with a lot of the things that we're seeing in business and in the world. So raise your voice, learn how to do it in a professional manner, learn how to do it well. Let your perspective be heard. Add to the group project and make it better. You will make it better just by the exercise. You will learn, you will grow. Stay at it. Don't get discouraged. You'll make mistakes. Pick yourself up and keep going. So the homework then is simply, don't disqualify yourself. Don't disqualify yourself. Some of these things that I'm talking about, as I'm saying it, you may be actively in your own mind disqualifying yourself already and saying, well, here's what I don't do well. I'm not completely sure that my ideas are that good. I have this idea, and who really wants to hear it? They've got their own direction they want to go. I'm just gonna let it go. I'm happy enough just helping them do what they want me to do. Okay. Fair enough. But I want to tell you that we need you. The world needs you. Your family, your business, your community needs you. Need to hear what you have to say, the unique perspective that only you can give, and no one else can give that. No one else can. With people, it's just amazing. The same thing, the same idea just doesn't come out the same way. And it's always different depending on the person that's coming through. So you have something to give, be sure to give it. And let the chips fall where they may, and don't, maybe you just need to not get too tied up or worried about the outcome. just make sure that you give your part, that you do your part, and you do it as well as you can, that you continue to grow and you do a little bit better every day, and you'll be fine. But don't disqualify yourself out the gate. Don't talk yourself out of being a participant in life. I guarantee no matter how scary it is for you, how intimidating it may be for you to step out in this way, the more you do it, and if you just keep some humility about it, that's awesome. That will help you understand that you might fail, that you may miss some things, but honestly give it your best, and honestly commit to grow, and this will be a huge benefit to those around you, and it will be a huge benefit for you as you expand your skills and abilities and being able to present the wonderful ideas that you have for doing your work better, for the business doing its work better, for improving the situations around you. So that's the homework. So overcome the imposter syndrome. Make sure that you do your homework. Be strategic in the way you present and who you present to, and don't disqualify yourself. Okay. You've got much more to give than you probably realize. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time today to tune back in. It's always great to be able to do this. It's fun. I hope that it stays fun. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble. You can find us now again on LinkedIn, the actual live stream. Some of you may be watching via that. It's not as direct of a connection, but we're able to get it on there, and that's a fun. And maybe you're on X. We're on X as well. So find us, The Daily Dance, on X, and then especially on Locals. Love for people to join the community on Locals. We can develop a community there for mutual encouragement and training as we go through our careers and we go through life, to be able to continually improve and capture some of these ideas, these wonderful business ideas that are always floating around, finding ways to actually ground them, make them more doable, actually execute them, because 95% or more of the ideas that are floating around there, we read the books and we hear the ideas and then we don't do them. We want to break things down in a way here that we can just on a daily basis, we can be encouraged, and we can find simple ways to start actually doing the good things that we want to do, and improve in the ways that we want to improve. So thanks again for watching. Please tell your friends and family and coworkers. We would love to have them tuning in. And until next time, remember to keep dancing.